Are we wrong?
Opened in 1901, the School of Music has become an integral part of Nelson's musical development, and it's been the venue for many, many memorable performances over the years. And it's renowned for its incredible acoustics. It seems very fitting, therefore, that the Nelson Civic Choir, founded over a century ago, chose this venue to stage Handel's seminal work, Messiah. I'm Liz Woodall, and I'd like you to join me on the journey that the choir takes to stage this piece. We'll meet some of the members of the choir along the way and find out what really inspires them to be part of this Nelson treasured institution.
1, 3, 5, 8, 5, 3, 1. I was going to do a whole scale.
I was born in sunny Southsea, which is Portsmouth in the UK.
1, 6.
I was born in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo. My mother was South African.
9, 5.
I was born in Sydney many years ago, before the war, but I won't say which war.
I was born in Cape Town, and I was raised in a very small village on the west coast of South Africa. Of course, I was born in the 70s.
I was born in 1950, so it's a long time ago, in the Netherlands, in a small province in the north, Friesland, where the black and white cows come from as well, the Friesians. So I'm a Friesian.
Well, I was born in Invercargill and grew up there many years ago now. Went to school in Invercargill and Dunedin.
I was born in Nelson, so you'd have to say I'm a Nelsonian. Spent most of my life here, a few years out in the back country teaching.
In 1939, war broke out, and my dad worked. Well, he had a newsagent shop in Portsmouth, and they decided that they wouldn't send me away, like a lot of kids got sent away to the West Country and all places like that during the war. But it was a bit difficult for him, and he ended up in the dockyard, and my mum was running the shop, so it was all a bit fraught for everybody.
Dad was in the RAF, so we were posted all over the place. And one of the best places we went to was Canada, where we lived on the prairies. And it was really good fun. I was at school with Red Indian children, and it was fabulous. I really loved it. And then too soon, a couple of years later, we returned to England.
I grew up and was educated in Sydney, started my banking career over there, and met my wife, who is a Nelsonian, Judith Maxwell as she was. She was nursing in Sydney, and we met at a social club. We met in May, were engaged in September and married in February, so it was a very short and sharp engagement.
Spent lots of my early years in Holland. Got to meet my present wife at high school.
It was a very Afrikaans town. As an English speaker, I was definitely in the minority, and going to school, you didn't have a choice as to whether to sing. So I was basically thrown into the choir at the age of 6. And yeah, if you could sing, you're in the choir, and that was that.
I was a primary school teacher for more than 40 years. When I returned to town in the 70s, I met my wife, Donnell. We were both in an operatic show together, and she actually was in civic choir before I was.
I always loved music. We never went to many shows when I was growing up. I had the radio, the concert program, and that was about it. But I remember everywhere I went I was just humming, and I used to ride horses a lot, and I'd be away out on the paddocks singing at the top of my lungs, but everywhere I was just humming songs.
When I was in the RAF, actually, that's when I found I could sing, because they joined, said, would you like to join the choir or something, and I didn't really think about it. No, I quite enjoyed that. It was different. It's just completely sort of got me off of various duties as well, which is quite good. Skyville.
Probably about 13, and I realised I had got a singing voice. But Dad always said, oh, you can't manage these things, it's all right, leave it at your own. So I never talked about my voice to anybody because I didn't have the confidence to sing in public or to sing solo. But we once did the Barbara of Seville at boarding school, and I I loved it. I had more fun doing that than probably anything else, that and painting. So that's what I did. And then later on in life, met Colin and decided that we'd settle down together. And we met on World Day for Laboratory Animals on the March in Sussex.
I can remember the old shelter and going out at night and the bombs coming down and the buzz bombs going over. I can still hear it. I can still know when they call Brennschluss, when the engine cuts out and you wait for the impact. And that was quite, I mean, I was only a kid, obviously. Didn't really know what was going on, but my dad used to go out picking up shrapnel, and much to the horror of my mother, I said, come in. But yeah, so happy days, and I can remember seeing a parachutist coming down, a German, landing on the gasometer, which was quite near me, Rudmore Street, Portsmouth. It's all changed now. Where we used to live is completely gone. There's a big roundabout, and that's where you catch the boat to go across to France.
decided, or I decided really, that I would like to come across to New Zealand. It was my decision rather than Jude's, even though she was the Kiwi and I was the Aussie. I fell in love with Nelson and thought this was the place I eventually wanted to live. And it took us 16 years to do it, but eventually we did. So we came across to Nelson from Sydney at the beginning of 1981, and we've been here ever since.
The big move to New Zealand was really because my daughter Melanie came out here many years ago, and she said, when you retire you're going to have to come and see for yourself what it's like. And she always sounded so relaxed and happy, and yeah, let's go. So I was 65, got the big nest egg, got the money, got retirement, let's go. So we came out here for 4 months, did the whole of the South Island, and we borrowed their old car, an old Corolla, and it was an amazing experience. Never forget it. And I actually cried when we left New Zealand. When we took off from Nelson Airport, I just cried. It was so moving. I knew I was coming back, and that was that. So then my health deteriorated, and I had something called polyarteritis nodosa, which is like with spots, and your immune system goes bananas, and basically screwed me up. Took a piece of intestine out because that's the only way they could keep me going. And this is in 2005, just as we'd applied for our residency here. Anyway, we got it, and we had to come out within so much time to actually consolidate the residency, which we did, 2005, and bingo, and I'm here and I ain't going back.
Then Colin came home one day and said, there's an advert for a job in New Zealand. So I said, okay, well, if you don't get the job, don't come home. I didn't mean it, but there you go. And he did get the job. So a year later, we were living in the Waikato.
The reason why I decided to join a choir is because the last time I'd sung in a choir was I was 18, I was in high school. I'd sung all the way through school. I didn't realise I'd miss it. And I thought if I was ever able to have the opportunity to sing in a choir again, I would take it. But of course at that time I was in Australia and I thought, well, where am I going to sing in a choir here? I didn't even think to look. And then we came back to Nelson, and my step-grandmother-in-law sings in the choir, and I approached her, and the rest is history.
Now, I just would like to make an explanation. Young Danny down there doing some video. I'm going to make a little documentary about Handel Messiah. I didn't ask your permission to be there, so it would be nice. As in a rowing boat, yaw again.
In 1992 we moved to New Zealand, and an interesting thing was that colleagues said to me, "Are you moving to New Zealand? And how do you experience that country?" I said, "Well, actually I've never been there." They said, "Not even for a holiday." I said, "Oh, come on, that's too far. If train number 4 doesn't come there, it's too far away from home." So we knew about New Zealand via a family who lived here, but we'd never been here, and we just sold everything we had because we felt that that was the right thing to do. Children were 6 and 9 then, and that's a good age to still move them. After that, it's problematic.
My singing experience began with the church choir at All Saints in Nelson. When I was a lad, they had a choir of over 30 voices, and part of that was the 10 children in the junior choir. The organist of the time was Arthur Lilly. Now, he was Ralph Lilly's father. Ralph Lilly was the music master at Nelson College in the 50s and the 60s. Any old boy would tell you about Ralph, what a character he was, and what he brought to the music actually of the town, not just of the college.
26th of October, and the usual rehearsal venue, the School of Music, is unavailable. With such a large group, finding an alternative space can prove to be a challenge. Fortunately, another historic Nelson institution, Nelson College, is able to cater to the choir's needs.
I came from a musical background that included a lot of choir singing, mainly through being a chorister at Nelson Cathedral when I was a kid, from aged about 11 to when I was about 18, to when I left home. Grew up with that tradition of, you know, Anglican choral tradition, which is quite a strong tradition, especially in England, but it was relatively strong in New Zealand when I was a kid, but it's sort of, I guess, under pressure nowadays.
When did I start singing? Well, I've sung all my life, really. I've never had any musical training other than what you pick up at school by being in school choirs and things like that. At the age of 21, I did a show with the Banks Musical Society in Sydney, which was Cole Porter's Anything Goes. And that was the only musical theatre I'd done until 1985. We're back over here.
So we carried on from basically Eastbourne after my second marriage was with Carol, and she was a tape hanger in the Department of the Environment computer room. And of course we used to work 3 shifts, and it was pretty hairy actually, 3 shifts, and days, nights, evenings and so on. And it makes you go grey. But nevertheless, there were lots of things to do, and I became a radio ham, which is something I've been doing, for 40, 50 years, I suppose, now. When I retired at 65, I was doing sort of desk work, really, producing mod leaflets for the RAF, various bits of equipment that our company made, which is all to do with navigation and reconnaissance and the old Tornado aircraft. So I used to get around a bit. I've actually sat in a Tornado. It's quite an interesting experience.
So in England we had everything from parrots to budgies to rabbits to... I spent half the day cleaning out all these animals, and one day a girlfriend said, let's collect some chickens from a farmer who does a battery farmer who doesn't want them anymore. So we did 6,000 chickens we rescued from a battery farm. Some went to Paul McCartney and others went to Carla Lane, who's quite well known in England for her comedies.
In 1976, we were 25, 26. We moved to Tanzania via what you call here voluntary services abroad, VSA, to do work in underdeveloped country, Tanzania. Had a great time there. After that, I worked some time for the Dutch government, and then in 1980 or so, 83, we moved to England. So we've always been on the move quite a bit. And I worked in England for Unilever first, later on EDS. Moved back to Holland, got children, so my wife stopped then working. For a while we worked both part-time. It was a great time. When Hedda, my eldest, was born, I started working for 4 days a week. So I had one day that I was pushing around the pram, talking to the neighbour over coffee, over doing nappy laundry and so on. It was a great time, but at a certain moment I stopped working altogether because the second was born.
Then I was allowed to join the choir, the Civic Choir. And at the time it was Rita Paxian, she was the conductor. Rita was a German lady. She was marvellous. She brought a really good dimension to the choir. Certainly learnt lots through her. In those days there were only about 2 or 3 tenors in the choir, so I sing tenor. We were cherished. Tenors still are. There's never enough tenors, so that's a happy place to be because you're always welcome.
At primary school in Invercargill, they formed a special choir, and I was in that, and we actually did some broadcasts, which was amazing. And also at secondary school in Dunedin, we used to have a special choir, and we did broadcasts too then. So that was really fun and something to work towards. Well, I think my first stage show was an adaptation of the Oberammergau Passion Play in Invercargill, and I was 17. And I remember singing He Was Despised from the Messiah, unaccompanied, alone on the stage, after Christ and all the procession had come down. He's riding the donkey on the stage and everything, and they'd all come down and gone. And that's when I sang that, so that was quite a moving experience.
We left Portsmouth when I was 10. I've got vague memories of when the war finished, and there were lots of celebrations and dancing around in the Guildhall in Portsmouth. My father decided to up sticks and get a grocer's shop, and he ended up in Guildford. And from Guildford then we moved to another grocer's shop in Alton, by which time I was now 18.
Went to university in Christchurch to study performance viola playing, which didn't really agree to me because I was quite hard to motivate back in the day. And drifted into conducting while I was at university by getting involved with a student musical society called MUSOC, which is at Canterbury University, and started conducting shows there, and literally was asked to conduct a musical and had absolutely no idea about conducting. So I remember going and seeing a friend of mine, an older colleague of mine, Philip Norman, who's a composer and conductor in Christchurch. And he sort of showed me, sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, was that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of that sort of stuff. And just got into it, just started conducting other musicians. To a point where I was doing musicals professionally for musical societies and stuff like that in Christchurch, and occasionally doing a bit of choir conducting with the Christchurch Youth Choir and with a male voice choir in Christchurch, the Addington Railway Male Voice Choir, which was a neat old male voice choir based at the Addington Railway Workshops, just since completely gone.
I joined an anti-vivisection society who I'd lied about my age. And so at about 14 I joined the NAVS and left all the magazines lying around the house that they'd sent me to encourage my parents to be more enlightened. And it grew from there really, and I've loved animals ever since. So when I met Colin on this march, we decided we settled down together. We gradually collected too many rescued animals.
We had a few setbacks within the first 12 months. We came in the January, Jude's dad died on the 1st of April. My mum died 12 days later, on the 12th of April. And we had a house fire on the 17th of June. So we thought, are we really meant to be here? But we decided that we were, and so we stuck it out.
So in 1990 I came back to Nelson, was asked by a friend of mine, Brian Neal, if I'd consider conducting the Nelson Male Voice Choir, which to be honest wasn't really my thing. I was more interested in classical music, but enjoyed conducting those guys. We had a great time and certainly developed the way that choir sang, and I think sort of steered them in a certain direction, which was good. That culminated in the creation of the National Men's Choir, which I was the founding musical director of.
I've always enjoyed singing, and you know, singing is an amazing gift. It's a gift to yourself and also to other people. That's me. Of course, got hooked into the Nelson Civic Choir, which has really been a great help and a big lift. Nice meeting people.
When I came to Nelson from Auckland in 2000, I joined the Civic Choir. Really wanted to keep on singing. And also Carl Browning's combined choir, and I'm a member still of both of them. We rehearsed and performed at the School of Music, and I can't remember the first show I was in with the choir. Memory's not too good way back then.
Glory, the glory of the... It's too sloppy, it's got to be quite sprightly and bouncy and energetic. The glory of the Lord.
Lots of fun singing from about the age 10, I suppose. It was part of our life. Church every Sunday and in the choir. And then I went off to Teachers College, became a teacher, and back around the district teaching. Civic Choir, Donnell, my wife, joined fairly early in our marriage.
I think even in kindergarten I always sang, and I remember that I could sing. And then of course in primary school we were all marched through the first week of school. We were all marched off to the music rooms, and we were told by one, go and sing Blah Blah Black Sheep with the music teacher. Well, now I've sung both in the cathedral and I've sung at the School of Music, and I was hoping that we would sing at the School of Music at some point because we always practice there.
In the 1800s, Nelson settlers formed a harmonic society so they could share in amateur musical performances. In 1893, they imported a full-time conductor, Michael Beiling, from Germany. On holiday at Mount Cook, Beiling was snowed in with a wealthy Nelson shipping agent who donated the present site at the corner of Nile and Collingwood Streets. The Nelson School of Music was designed by Frederick de Jersey-Clare and was opened in September 1901.
That's a great line.
I had been taking polyhymnos, a small chamber choir for a while as well, but then I took over the civic choir, which was great because it gave me an opportunity to consider doing more substantial repertoire, classical repertoire. So obviously we've done various performances of Handel's Messiah, 3, while I've been director of the choir. And as well we've performed the Fauré Requiem and the De Rufflet Requiem, which I was really excited to conduct. And probably highlights for me were to conduct Carmina Burana. And as well, The Armed Man by Carl Jenkins, which was a very moving piece. And I was really thrilled with the way we produced it in the cathedral. It was dramatic, and a lot of people really enjoyed those performances. Well, as far as choosing the material that the choir sings, I mean, I guess it's down to the conductor. The buck stops with the conductor. I mean, obviously the choir gives suggestions, and especially the committee members give suggestions as to what they would like to do. Of course, that has to be tempered with what the conductor thinks they're able to do. And when I first started, we were doing 3 groups of concerts a year, and I felt that the quality of singing wasn't getting to the point where I really wanted it to, which is why I pulled it back to 2 major concerts a year with a much longer rehearsal period, and that definitely paid dividends.
Glory to God, glory to God in the highest.
And one thing which did come over, I felt, was the timing was impeccable. I thought we'd got it really together, and we were there with Pete. He had us there under control, and we responded exactly how he wanted us to respond, and it was a fantastic performance. It's really good. Yeah, one of the best.
Messiah has been my first performance with Nelson Civic Choir, and I was with a choir down in up in Hamilton, but their songs were, well, they were slightly more modern. I do like classical pieces.
I was actually very excited to be able to sing Handel's Messiah. I've heard a lot about it, but I've never ever sung it. In high school we did the Hallelujah chorus, and of course that was very nice. But I've always wanted to sing the whole thing, so it was really, really exciting to be able to do that. And of course, knowing nothing about any of the pieces, I had no idea what to expect. The whole choir just melded so well together. I mean, there were times in the performance when I felt almost emotional.
The Messiah, I've done, I think, 3 times with the Civic Choir. So this year wasn't as stressful as some of the previous ones, learning the actual music. Although it was a wee bit more crowded with the orchestra on stage than we probably felt in the cathedral. It was still a lovely feeling to be in our normal venue to do it there, and the acoustics were very good. People commented to me on the night of the 2 performances, and also subsequently, just how much they enjoyed this performance of the Messiah.
You know, with a piece like Messiah, which you come back to like an old friend, because I've performed it probably about 7 or 8 times in my life, or performed in it, or directed it, and I know the corners of the piece very well, but still you can find fresh stuff every time you do it. And it's been a great rehearsal period, getting this particular performance together. Performing it in the School of Music, it's the first time I've ever performed it in the School of Music. I've always performed it in the cathedral prior to that. The School of Music's less forgiving, but the choir can hear themselves in the orchestra much, much better than they can in the cathedral. So that made for, I think, a more cohesive performance.
I think it was one of the best performances the Civic Choir did, although they had good performances. But yeah, I think we really did well this concert, and the reaction of the audiences were absolutely all positive, so that's good. Interesting thing was that it was this year for the first time not in the cathedral but in the School of Music, and it was a different, yeah, it was easier for the choir, I think, in the School of Music, because we always rehearse there as well, so we are used to that room, that space. I think it is better for the audience because there are no pillars where you sit behind.
This latest one that we did just recently would have to be, in our opinion, the best Messiah we've done. But then I think that a lot of that is the fact that many of us have sung it several times now with Pete as conductor, and we're quite familiar with the work, and he has his favourite arias and choruses. Are they arias? No, they're not, are they? As he organises his choir, he seems to put the tenors centre stage, so we actually, that doesn't make us any better singers, but it certainly gives you a better place to stand, because where we stand we actually hear all the other parts around us, and that's really something quite special.
Well, in terms of the performances of the Messiah that the Civic Choir have performed, it undoubtedly was the most together, because we really could hear each other, you know, the orchestra and the choir. I felt very close to the choir.
Make it work like that, okay? And all flesh shall see it together. Work hard. Okay, this time clearer, working harder, observing the dynamic levels that are written in for you. Here we go again, alto starting. Page 11, everybody. Be ready for it. You've got to be confident. It'd be nice if we can, you know, get ahead as quickly as possible with these choruses. O thou, O thou, O thou that... Okay.
And then we came down to a conference here in Nelson because we'd heard it was quite nice. And we fell in love, like everybody does, with this region. And a year later we were living down here. And we've not wanted to move since, really. We've been here for near on 10 years and absolutely love it.
I did lots of shows, particularly in the 1990s. I was doing about 3 shows a year at that time. And my kids, the 2 younger ones, it was actually 3 younger ones who were the only ones who were theatrically inclined. The 3 older ones weren't interested. I retired from work in 2001, and it was the following year, I think, that I first became involved with the Nelson Civic Choir.
I was studying in Dunedin at 19, and I started learning from Vincent Major, who was a very well-known singing teacher in the South Island and an opera singer herself. And I landed my first role in an opera, and it was Smetana's The Bartered Bride. And because I was an alto, or mezzo, I was given the role of the mother. And it was really funny because I was 19 and my daughter, the soprano, was 26. So I had to wear a grey wig and everything. It was fun. But that was my first experience of singing in an opera.
I was always very much interested in music, listening to music and so on, but never active in it. But when I was in my 40s, still in the Netherlands, I thought, I would love to be involved, but what instrument can you learn when you're so old? And I think the only instrument you can still manage a bit is your own voice. So I just went to a choir that I had heard, and that was actually a church choir, the American Protestant Church of The Hague, which was an interdenominational international church. So lots of people from all over the world, very interesting. The conductor was from South Carolina, so we did lots of gospels, but also Mozart. And the nice thing is that when I joined that choir, I learned very quickly, because every Thursday night we had one rehearsal, and then we had a performance during the service on Sunday.
Now, Messiah, the first time we sang it, we didn't get it all right, no way. And there were bits that were sort of glossed over, and being one of 3 tenors, it was a bit difficult.
Let's be honest, if you're finding a bit of a struggle, just don't sing that bit. Put a wee circle around it, okay? Kick. At that point, have a break. If you wanted to put a coloured pencil line under your line of music, I think it's a really good idea. These aren't actually huge copies. Actually, Patty, if you want to hold that up, it does make a difference. I think if they were choir copies, you'd want to do it in pencil. Just make it easy on yourself. Even just use a normal pencil. 1, 2, and...
Glory to God! Glory to God! Glory to God in the highest!
I've been in many operas. We did up to 2 operas a year. So a lot of stage experience. It's fantastic. I could have lived on the stage, done nothing else. But when I wasn't on the stage, I was working at the Aotea Centre complex, and we had 4 theatres there. So it was one side of the stage or the other, and just loved it, being steeped in theatre. It was wonderful.
I've got 5 daughters. 3 are still in the UK, and the 2 that we had here are with us here. So all our family's over here now. My other sort of spiritual activities brought me into singing in a different mode, more sort of into the healing aspects of singing. And where we used to practice, if I can put it that way, he was actually a producer, an operatic producer, and they wanted some extra voices for this production of Aida, which was going to be in the White Rock Theatre in Hastings. And I thought it was nothing to it, really, just background job, you know. But I didn't realise he was going to dress us up and stick us on the stage. But I quite enjoyed it. And it sort of turned me about, you know, and I realised here was a little niche that I enjoyed, going on the stage, showing off, I suppose.
Pete has worked with the choir, and we've done Messiah twice with him. Each one has been different, and the audience seem to appreciate the fact that everywhere they sit in the School of Music is a good place to sit, and if it's quality of sound you're wanting, well, you can't beat that particular venue.
The singing's doing me good because since taking more singing lessons and joining Nelson Civic Choir, I'm feeling a little bit more breathy because I've got secondary cancer and breast cancer, and it went into both lungs. And I'm feeling great. The Messiah was, it sent me. It was just wonderful singing all those lovely words I just imagined God as I was singing them, because, you know, that's what it's written about. Yeah. So, Jesus. So, love it.
I think everybody felt that it was a good performance. I think those who had done it before felt comfortable with it. I think we had the basis of the music. Talking to some of the younger choir members for whom it was the first time they'd sung Messiah, I think they felt very happy with the end result. And of course everybody enjoyed Pete's musical direction. I think he's very easy to work with. He makes it fun.
I'd love to do it again. And apparently Pete Rainey says we're going to be doing it every 2 years or so, maybe, touch wood. But it was wonderful. It was wonderful. It really was. I felt so proud. I mean, I was just bursting with enthusiasm. And I was on a high afterwards, which lasted a few hours, you know. And then for a few days afterwards, I had to keep singing. It was great.
Hallelujah. Then I came to Nelson and I joined the Civic Choir at some stage. And I always sincerely enjoyed it, doing productions. Have done 3 Messiahs so far. And the other interesting thing is, before I came to New Zealand, I did not know Messiah. The very first time I heard Messiah was when I sang in it with the Orpheus Choir.
Actually, one of my favourite works really is Handel's Messiah. And with one choir or the other, we seem to do it every year. which is fantastic because I always try and approach the music, which I know very well, from a new angle, and to find something different and really exciting in it, and I usually do. And this year, I loved it. We had 85 people singing on stage. It was a huge mass of voices, excellent orchestra, and very good young soloists. It's lovely to hear new voices coming through because I have sung the alto role myself before, and it was a wonderful experience. Just loved it, as always. There was one person that I really, really welcomed to Nelson, and she came just after me. That was Jill Kendrick.
Well, I've sung forever, actually. I can't remember not singing. In fact, people used to try to shut me up. And of course, as I got older, I joined several choirs in Auckland. My husband and I moved down to Nelson, largely because we had family down here. And so we thought, oh, well, let's make a move. I didn't really know many people in Nelson, but I joined the choir the first year. And lo and behold, there was Lyndall Howley. I've met the most lovely people through the choir. We have a lot of fun. Funnily enough, I wasn't in the last performance of Messiah that the choir did, but I was in the audience, of course, supporting, and thought they did a wonderful job. The first performance that I was in with the Nelson Civic Choir was one of the Fore Requiem. This was when Keith Woods was the conductor, and I remember distinctly our first rehearsal with the orchestra, and in came the orchestra, and I looked and I saw a familiar figure, and it was Pauline Boyd. She was playing the viola in the orchestra. I had no idea that she was down here in Nelson because I had known her in Auckland, and in fact she had played quite often for me for some solo work. And so that was another lovely thing, and since then Pauline's often been our rehearsal pianist for the choir.
It's interesting how much of a tradition it is here in Nelson to do the Messiah at Christmas. If it's not the Civic Choir, it's another choir doing it, so it was nice to come back to do it again this year.
Handel's Messiah this particular production was much more professional and smooth. It's because we've done it 2-3 times before. I know there were some newbies in the choir who hadn't done it before, but no, generally speaking, we were much more relaxed, much more secure, and able to give our best.
We may meet some reluctance from members of the Nelson Civic Choir who are trying to focus on their performance and may not be that receptive to a camera. So let's go find out.
Have the soloists arrived yet?
Okay. This is Mr. Pete Rainey, conductor.
No, I'm not doing it tonight. No, I've decided I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
So have you seen Dan? Do you know Dan Kendrick?
Yes, I do. He's quite attractive man, isn't he?
Well.
Yes.
If you see him, if you could ask him if he would like to conduct tonight.
Sure. I'm sure he's more than capable. So, in case he can't, are you available for a backup at all, Mr. Rainey?
Possibly. although I'm taking a wee bit of a break from the choir for a while, potentially, who knows what will happen, but I certainly hope that I can come back and conduct the choir with some more ambitious works in the future.
A big guitar, as some wags often say.
Why do they call it a big guitar, Mr. Gilmore?
Because they think that's funny. Like, I've never heard that before.
So it's obviously not funny.
It's not hugely funny, is it?
Well,
when you've heard it like 20 or 30 times.
Yeah, obviously not.
Well, it's good. It's great fun, being part of a group in a different sort of way than you are, when you're playing in a live like rock band or whatever. Proper things to play, like specific notes to play. It's my new micro. It's
Great.
Right.
Is that yours?
This is mine. $45, you can get it for 20 on the internet.
Yeah.
I'm now going to put the bass down. You are a cheap piece of plywood. Claire, you used to play for the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, is that right?
I did for 3 years.
Wow.
I went through the Schola Musica thing. I left school and applied and got into Schola Musica, which was the trainee orchestra, and I had 3 years with them, and then we moved to Auckland, and I started having babies.
Ah.
So yeah.
So then you came
6
back
children
here?
later,
children?
arrived back here.
Holy cow! So you're excited to play the Messiah tonight?
I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, I think this is only my 3rd or 4th time, so I'm not an old hand with the Messiah at all. But I love it.
Well, I'm sure that we're very lucky to have you. You're such
really
a lovely.
Loving being here.
You can make that viola sing.
I do play, but also do design stuff. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
great.
Yeah.
So you're like a graphic designer?
No,
interiors.
Well, actually an architect, but been working on set design.
Set design.
Yeah.
Really? For who?
I've been at Opera North for the last year, and before that Scottish Opera, New Zealand Opera, and yeah.
That's fantastic. So operas obviously have very opulent sets.
Yes, they do. So, but yeah, been kind of assistant designers for those, so it's been amazing.
Yeah. So obviously a very creative person, and you play the violin in any kind of spare time you have.
Yeah, I guess so.
And not only violin, but first violin, like lead. So if everything turns to custard, it's all your fault.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've met a couple of really interesting people that are involved in putting Handel's Messiah together for Nelson audiences. Let's go see how the performance is.
Well, yes, I do like biscuits. My particular favourites are cameo creams. Cameo creams I like, and then the little lemon treats, the ones that are salty on the outside but got the sugary lemony bit in the middle.
But what really made this particular production good was having it in the School of Music.
I like eating ginger nuts and cheese, or dipping ginger nuts in whiskey is another favourite of mine.
And I'm just so thrilled. I love it. I really, really do, you know.
I love being part of the Civic Choir.
When I eat mellow puffs, I always take the bottom off first.
I just love singing Messiah, and that's fair enough, isn't it?
There have been one or two people who've really helped out and to make the whole running of the thing smoother, and I certainly pay real credit to Sydney Bletchenden, who's been an amazingly solid person in the background for all the while that I've been at choir, and as well David Featherston's been great, and I particularly miss Brian. I got to know Brian quite well, and he was one of the funniest guys, and had no hesitation in telling me what he thought I should be doing on many occasions. So I miss him a lot. Yeah, I think we all do, really.